This is the first part of section 6.6 lecture, and we're going to start by learning how to use all that factoring we just learned to solve quadratic equations. So first we need to learn about the zero product principle, which says that if the product of two or more algebraic expressions equals 0, then at least one of the factors is equal to 0. In other words, if we have A and we multiply it by B, then the only way they can be 0 is if either A is 0 or B is 0, because anything times 0 is 0, right? So for example, if we have 2x plus 1 times x minus 4 equals 0, that means that either 2x plus 1 equals 0, or it means that x minus 4 equals 0. So then we can solve each equation. So subtract 1 from both sides on the first one. We get 2x equals negative 1, and then divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals negative 1/2. If we solve x minus 4 equals 0, we just add 4 to both sides. And so we get x equals 4. So we can test either one of those and see if we end up with 0. So if we put negative 1/2 in, we would have 2 times negative 1/2 plus 1 times x minus 4. Whoops, not x minus 4, sorry. Negative 1/2 minus 4. Negative 1/2 minus 4. And we want to know if that equals 0. Well, let's see. We have 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1 plus 1 times negative 1/2 minus 4 is negative 1/2 minus 8/2 if we get a common denominator. Does that equal 0? Well, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So it really doesn't even matter that we have a negative 9/2 in our second parentheses, because anything times 0 equals 0. So we could do the same thing with the x equals 4, and we would come out with the same thing, that it does check. I'll leave that for you to do. So a quadratic equation in x is an equation that can be written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And that's where a, b, and c are real numbers and a is not equal to 0. Why is a not equal to 0? Well, if a is equal to 0, then what happens is our ax squared terms goes away, and we have just bx plus c equals 0, which is a line, not a second degree equation. So how do we solve a quadratic equation? First, we write it in standard form. Then we factor it. Then we apply the zero product principle that we just learned at the top of the page. Then we set each factor with a variable equal to 0, solve each equation, and then check our solutions. So, for example, x squared minus x minus 20. So if we're going to factor that, we need two numbers that multiply to give us negative 20 and add to give us negative 1. So let's see, we have negative 1 and 20, 1 and negative 20, 2 and negative 10, negative 2, positive 10, 3 doesn't go, 4 and negative 5, or negative 4 and positive 5. So which one of those adds up to give us negative 1? Well, that's the 4 and the negative 5. So we know that this factors into x minus 5, x plus 4. And that equals 0. So either x minus 5 equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. So if x minus 5 equals 0, then x equals 5. If x plus 4 equals 0, we subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x equals a negative 4. So either x is 5 or x is negative 4. And we'll stop here on this video, and we'll pick up with some more examples on the next page in the next video.